So many of you asked for a deep dive into bishops and like how their focus on the youth really shapes the ward, the whole ward dynamic. And we're going to use Elder Cook's talk, Bishops, Shepherds Over the Lord's Flock from April 2021 General Conference.
Yeah, it's a really good one. It digs into that, like why they put so much emphasis on the youth.
So to get us started, the talk lays out like 5 big things a bishop is responsible for. So like he's the presiding high priest. So basically that's leading the priesthood holders in the ward.
Right.
And then he's also the president of the Aaronic priesthood. So that's all the young men, 12 to 18.
Yeah. And then also on top of that, they're common judge. That means helping with conflict resolution, giving counsel, and then coordinating the work of salvation and exaltation, which sure everyone's got a chance to participate in the ordinances, the covenants, all that.
Right, right. And then all the kind of like day-to-day stuff of running a ward, records and finances and all that. It's a lot.
It is a lot. And that's why Elder Cook really stresses that they need to delegate. Like a lot of that counseling should go to other people on the ward council so the bishop can focus on what he sees as like the priority, being a shepherd to the youth.
And he tells this story about himself to really illustrate this point. He talks about being a young deacon, just moved to a new ward, and his dad wasn't active in the church at the time, and he almost missed this father and son event up at Bear Lake.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and so that's where Brother Dean Eyre, who was the second counselor in the bishopric, stepped in. He personally invited young Quentin to go with him and even spoke really highly of Quentin's dad and emphasized how important it was to be with the quorum. I loved that. That just seems like, I don't know, such a little thing, but just think about the impact. Like this man went above and beyond, recognized that, sometimes youth need that extra bit of support, especially when they're teenagers, right? And obviously it left a lasting impression on Elder Cook.
Yeah, it really shows how a bishop's influence can go way beyond just, Sunday meetings, like into those one-on-one moments. It wasn't some big program, it was just someone seeing a need and doing something about it.
It really makes you think about, what are those small actions that other people have done that have had a ripple effect in your life,
Totally. And speaking of ripple effects, Elder Cook brings up another amazing example. Bishop Moa Mahe. He was an immigrant bishop serving in a Tongan ward near the San Francisco airport.
Okay, yeah. Paint the picture for me. What was unique about this ward?
So it was full of first-generation youth, navigating a whole new culture. And Bishop Mahe, he had this incredible vision for them. He didn't just want them to get by. He wanted them to thrive.
And it sounds like they did. I mean, under his leadership, almost 90% of the young men in that ward served missions. 15 of the youth became the first in their families to go to college. And he even partnered with the local high school principal to support all the students, whether they were members of the church or not. That's amazing.
It is really remarkable. It shows you what can happen when a leader is truly invested in young people's potential. Bishop Mahe didn't just, set the bar high. He provided the support, guidance to help them actually reach those goals. He was invested in their success, not just as church members, but as individuals.
That really shows how a bishop's vision can uplift a whole generation. It can have such a lasting impact on their lives. What strikes you about Bishop Mahe's approach?
Well, he saw that these kids, as immigrants, faced unique challenges, and he, tailored his approach to their needs. He saw them each as individuals with unique potential, not just one group.
So it's not a one-size-fits-all approach. It's really understanding the individual circumstances and then giving them, the support they need.
Exactly. That individualized attention, that willingness to understand the youth, it can make all the difference.
This kind of leads into another part of a bishop's role we hear a lot about, helping families through tough times.
Yeah, especially during those teenage years when, things can get pretty tense.
Yeah.
And Elder Cook makes this interesting point about the timing. It often happens right around when parents are, going to the bishop for temple recommends.
Oh, you mean those interviews where they discuss their worthiness to enter the temple?
Yeah, exactly. So it's already a sensitive time, right? But it also gives the bishop this unique opportunity to step in, not as a disciplinarian, but as someone who's advocating for an eternal perspective. Not taking sides, but helping them see the bigger picture.
Right. He even shares the story about a bishop who helped a family kind of reset their focus. They were so caught up in these arguments about chores, and the bishop helped them see that, discipleship should come first, not a perfectly clean house. What a great example of a bishop helping a family find balance.
It really is. Sometimes you get so caught up in the everyday stuff you lose sight of what really matters.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where a bishop can really help, like bring that balance back.
I think everyone's felt that at some point, getting bogged down and losing that big picture.
Oh, for sure. It's a human thing. That's why having someone like a bishop who can offer that spiritual perspective, that guidance, it's so valuable.
It makes you think about the mentors in your own life. Like, who are the people who helped you see things differently, who guided you on a better path?
It is a powerful question. We all need those people in our lives. And it also makes you think, how can we be that for someone else?
We'll definitely dig into that more later, but first, let's talk about what Elder Cook says directly to the youth.
It's interesting, Elder Cook points out that the youth have more than just their parents to go to for guidance. He really encourages them to get advice from both their parents and their bishop, especially on those big life decisions.
Yeah, like building that support network.
Right.
Parents, obviously, they have that deep understanding of their child, the family dynamic, and the bishop can provide that spiritual perspective, grounded in the gospel. So it's about getting a well-rounded view.
Exactly. And the bishop's not there to replace parents. He's there to add to what they're doing, working together to help the youth through those really important years.
What I find really fascinating is how Elder Cook says even just a little bit of time with a young person can make a huge difference. Like just a conversation, really listening to them, a word of encouragement, those can be so powerful.
It reminds me of that saying, people may not remember exactly what you did or what you said, but they will always remember how you made them feel. And the bishop showing that Christ-like love, that genuine interest, that can really leave a mark.
It's all about creating a space where youth feel seen, heard, valued, especially, the ones who might be struggling or feeling lost. That sense of belonging can be life-changing. It makes me think back to when I was a teenager, like how much I craved that feeling of being understood.
I think that's something we all want, no matter how old we are. To be seen and understood, it's a good reminder that we can create that space for other people.
Now, Elder Cook also has this really powerful message specifically for the bishops. It's full of gratitude and appreciation for all that they do. He acknowledges how heavy this calling is, all the sacrifices they make.
And he reminds them that that title, bishop, it's not just a title, it's this sacred responsibility, to be a shepherd to the Lord's flock, especially guiding that rising generation.
He even compares it to other, really profound experiences, like marriage and fatherhood. Saying it evokes that same level of feeling, of commitment. It's a calling that stays with you, even after you're released.
And it's a calling that needs you to rely on the Savior's strength constantly. Elder Cook assures bishops that they're not alone. They have the support of the church leaders, fellow members, and most importantly, the guidance of the Holy Ghost.
And he reminds them of the incredible impact they have, especially on the youth. Like their efforts, no matter how small they might seem, they can create these ripples of positive change that go way beyond just their ward, their immediate circle. It makes me think of Bishop Mahe and how much he impacted a whole generation.
It's really beautiful when you think about it, that even the little things we do can have such a lasting impact. And that's not just for bishops, it's for all of us.
Exactly. So what are those small actions we can all take to make a difference in our own little corners of the world? Where do we see opportunities to be shepherds to the people around us, even if we don't have a specific calling or position?
Those are the questions, that really get to the heart of this message. It's not about having a certain calling. It's about living out that spirit of mentorship, compassion, and love that Elder Cook talks about.
Yeah, it's a call to action for all of us to look around and ask, who needs my support? Who needs someone to listen? Who needs a reminder of their divine potential?
And maybe even more importantly, how can I help create a space where they feel loved, valued, and like they can become the best version of themselves?
That is powerful. And that brings us to the end of our deep dive into Elder Cook's talk. It's amazing how Elder Cook just weaves together personal stories, teachings from the gospel, and practical advice all in this one talk. It's not just, theoretical. It's like this heartfelt invitation to understand the impact bishops have, like how they shape lives and strengthen communities.
Yeah, and what really gets me is how it goes beyond just bishops. It reminds us that we can all be shepherds, in our own circles. Whether we're parents or friends, neighbors, coworkers, doesn't matter. We all have chances to nurture, to guide, to support the people around us.
It's realizing that sometimes those tiny acts of kindness, they have the biggest effect. Just listening to someone, giving them a word of encouragement, lending a hand, that can make a world of difference, especially for those who are struggling, or feeling alone.
Thinking about Bishop Mahe and his legacy, it makes you kind of look beyond just your immediate circle, you know? Like, how can we create those ripple effects of positive change? How can we inspire others to be their best selves and contribute to something bigger?
Those are some heavy questions to ponder as we wrap up this deep dive, but they leave you with this feeling of hope, of possibility. Because even though things can feel kind of overwhelming sometimes, we can each make a difference, one small act of kindness at a time.
Right. It's a good reminder that true leadership, it's not about titles or positions. It's about living those Christ-like qualities, love, compassion, service, and we can all strive for that, no matter what our calling is or our situation.
So as you go about your week, keep those questions in mind. Look for chances to be a shepherd to the people around you. And remember, even the smallest things can have a lasting impact. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll see you next time.